Welcome to the all-new Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group guide to the Marvel Comics of the week. As always, I am Phil Perich, and joining me is...
Charlie Esser!
Alright, let's chip our way through this huge pile of books. I will start us off. First book I will go to is All New Wolverine number 7, and I can't believe Charlie Esser didn't pick this up, because it's guest starring Squirrel Girl.
I got a lot of books this week, man.
I know.
Curse you, Marvel!
Alright, so it opens up with Laura dreaming of basically, I guess when she was with the X-Men and Logan was still alive, he's like riding away on a motorcycle, and she's like, take me with you, and he's like, nah, it's not gonna work. He's like, we don't have regular lives, and he's like, you're better off with them, and she's with her begging him, please don't leave me, and he says, I'll be back. He's like, it's not like I'm leaving forever. Then he did. Yeah. Then she wakes up and she hears growling outside her apartment door, so she pops her claws, opens the apartment door, and who is it? It's Squirrel Girl with she's holding a real Wolverine.
Oh my. Why is she holding a real Wolverine?
Well, first she comes in and she goes, I'm sorry, just show up like this. I don't have your phone number. And Laura goes, I don't have a phone. She goes, you don't? That's just weird. So, the live Wolverine runs into the other bedroom where Gabby, Laura's younger clone's at, and they're like, uh-oh, and then they just hear, and Gabby's like, he's the best pet ever. She's like, I will walk him and feed him and dress him up in fine suits and build little cities out of cardboard for him to tear through like some hairy, giant, formally attired monster.
Yeah, Wolverines pee everywhere, though.
Yeah, and Squirrel goes, I like her. And so Laura asks her, why are you here? Why did you bring a Wolverine? And Squirrel goes, it's a matter of life and death, but I thought if I had to say, would come across better if you had an animal's perspective. And Laura's like, she's like, I can't talk to Wolverines.
Yeah, I figured she thought she would have been able to talk to Wolverine. Really? But you're called Wolverine.
Yeah. And
it's like finding out Spider-Man can't talk to spiders. It's like, really?
And Gabby's all like, you can talk to Wolverines, anyone can. And Laura's like, I can't understand Wolverines. And so Squirrel Girl's like, okay, Jonathan, I guess she named the Wolverine Jonathan, your services aren't required. But then Squirrel
Girl speaks Wolverine. Good to know.
Well, Squirrel Girl, she finally tells her why she's there. You have wronged the squirrel world. Laura's like, I'm going back to bed. There were men with guns. Their car crashed into a tree. You caused their car to crash into a tree. That tree was home to a squirrel family. You put a tracker on a squirrel. The men chased him. He's a father and he's missing. So Laura agrees to go with her.
Yeah. Well, she can all dismiss this, but dang it all, that's things,
Mm-hmm.
There are squirrels in this world. Ms. Wolverine thinks she's so high and mighty, and don't think you can take Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl beat Wolverine. Let's not forget that.
So
she did too.
Yeah. So Squirrel Girl and Laura are ready to take off, and Gabby wants to go with them, but Laura's like, well, you have to go back to bed. Plus, you have to keep Jonathan from eating the furniture, and she's like, this isn't a normal life. She's like, I was just woken up by a late night break-in by Squirrel Girl holding a carnivorous mammal, and that's the least crazy thing that's happened to me this week. And that's when Gabby begs her, please don't leave me, just like she begged Logan back in the day. And Laura's like, I'll be back soon, and
sound like I'm going away forever.
So basically, they go to meet the rest of the squirrel family, and Laura's like, do they have anything with the father's scent? So they give her a nut. She gets the scent off the nut, and then they take off. Then they're in the lobby of an apartment building, like a fancy apartment building, and Laura's like, okay, we need access to the elevator. She's like, if you distract the guard, but meanwhile, Squirrel Girl just like runs up a wall, sneaks up behind the guard and like steals his key card, which gets them onto the elevator with no one saw them. And then while they're going up in the elevator, Squirrel Girl asks to take a selfie with Laura. She's like, put the mask on. So they get upstairs. They get to an apartment, and Squirrel Girl's like, so what's the plan? Are you going to hack the door down with your adamantium claws? Or and Laura just knocks on the door. And an older gentleman answers, says, who are you? And she says, Wolverine. And I get a kid, I guess it's the son, runs in. He goes, Wolverine. He goes, oh, you're a girl.
Yeah, very disappointing, I'm sure.
So they just like walk into the apartment. They go into the son's room, and I guess the scent's coming from a shoebox. And Laura's like, uh-oh. She's like, okay, prepare yourself. She opens the lid, and Squirrel Father's alive.
Yay!
Yeah, and they take him back to the park. And basically, Squirrel Girl's translating for the squirrel. I want you to know your actions caused us a lot of pain. We lost our home. We almost lost our father. And but I know that the men who did this are the ones to blame, and not you. I forgive you. You have returned my father. There's nothing more important. You brought our family back. And basically, Laura's like, thank you. And then she tells Squirrel Girl, I do have a phone. She's like, I knew it. No one's that strange. And I'm saying that as someone with the powers of a squirrel. So she gives Squirrel Girl her number, and as Laura's walking away, the squirrel says to Squirrel Girl, what did you tell her? And Squirrel Girl goes, what she needed to hear. And the Squirrel says, what? You didn't pass on anything I said? And Squirrel Girl says, nope. And the Squirrel goes, so, she's not giving my nut back? Then Laura goes home, and Gabby's like, did you find the squirrel? Yep. She's like, great. She's like, did you find the way to get rid of me? Because she was talking about, finding her a new home. And she says, Gabby, I should have taken you with me. She's like, but if you're willing to stay, this is your home now. She's like, I might attract a spontaneous Galactus attack, because that's what Logan was talking about. But she says, he might step on our sandwiches. She's like, huh? And she's like, never mind. She's like, but you belong here. I won't leave you. The end.
Oh. Wolverine and Gabby, the newest team on the planet.
Yep, but it was a cute issue. I gotta give it a thumbs up. But from the last page, it looks like the road to Civil War II begins next issue.
Yeah, we're all going to war over Mosaic. We'll talk about that in super connectivity.
All right, and since we're speaking of Wolverine, and I gotta do 2 in a row, I will go to Old Man Logan number 5. Did you have a chance to look at this at all?
No, I actually completely missed that. The only one that I browsed this week was Amazing Spider-Man, which was amazing, as the title suggested. But I remember last time he had just gotten recruited by the X-Men, so I'm assuming this is going to be a jump forward, or are we still with the X-Men?
What opens up at X-Haven, he's basically, Old Man Logan tells Storm he's taking a leave of absence. Because I'm guessing this is the present now, because he's saying he needs to take a leave of absence, and she's like, well, here, take us a miniature Cerebra so you can call us in case of trouble. She's like, with the Terrigen Mist and everything, she's like, I want you to take one. And he's like, oh, I don't think I'm going to, he's like, I don't think I'm going to that much trouble. I'm going to need you guys to back me up. And she's like, actually, I was thinking more, we might need you. And he's like, we? She's like, I need you. I can't do this alone. I've been through as much as you. You're central to the team. And he's like, I'm still getting used to the team stuff again. And he's like, I'll be back.
Now, did Storm and Wolverine have an actual relationship in the 616, or is that only in alternate universe futures?
Yeah, no, they kind of start, her and, the regular Wolverine, they started dating, like, right before he got killed.
Yeah, but this is a different timeline of Wolverine, so he actually wasn't in that.
Yeah, so, I don't think Old Man Logan doesn't remember any of that.
Yeah, this is the Wolverine from when Acts of Vengeance actually worked.
Mm-hmm. But so they pop. That's a good thought. I had never thought of that, but yeah, Acts of Vengeance would work.
Yeah, well, no, because it's Red Skull's in charge, and Red Skull was one of the Cabal that ran it, and all the different villains who people weren't used to attacked. Because Mysterio fighting the X-Men, why does Mysterio fight the X-Men? No reason. but except that this is how you win. Yeah, see?
But so basically Wolverine's back on Earth. He's cruising around on his motorcycle. He eventually makes it north to Canada. Basically he goes to some small town in Canada, I guess, what is this, Alaska, I guess, because he went up on an ice road that I guess it's only open 3 months of the year, so he's there for a while. He said he'd never been there, but he feels like he has. The place is digging up memories, and then they show him remembering, I guess, after, Mysterio had him kill the X-Men. He tried to kill himself. He put his neck down on a train track as a train was coming, and it ran him over. But of course, later on, he woke back up. Because he was like, I did my best to kill Wolverine once and for all, but my healing factor had other ideas.
So does he have adamantium skeleton in this?
I'm assuming, because like I said, he put his neck on a train track and let a train run him over. So
yeah,
and his head, his head's still attached. So I'm assuming it has to be adamantium.
They need to address these things.
Yeah, but I'm thinking when he pops his claws, there are adamantium. So but yeah, he's saying he didn't succeed in killing Logan that night, but he buried Wolverine forever because it shows him like burying his costume. But he spent a long time alone. Then I guess, back in that timeline, he eventually made his way back to Weapon X, the facility, but he said other people had the same idea because they showed a bunch of people with guns there. But he's working in the present, but he's remembering, his past in the other timeline. But he's basically feeding they show him feeding a wolf at night, and a young girl's telling him you shouldn't do that. Her mom says not to feed the strays. But the wolf seems to like the little girl, and I guess she's like his neighbor now or something. And then he's thinking about how when Steve Rogers found him, it changed everything for him because he came back in time to stop the villain uprising, but now he realizes that this isn't even his past. But seeing the little girl, he says, I know I'm exactly where I should be. And we'll find out more about what that means.
Is that little girl Kobik?
No, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess then they were flashing to back to Weapon X. These gun-toting guys were going to kill him, but then a woman walks in, and I guess she's with these survivors, and the guy tells the woman, we can't keep picking up strays, and she's like, you're not here to rob us or kill us, are you? And Logan's like, no, I'm just passing through, and she's like, well, despite what these boneheads think, you're welcome here. There's been enough fighting and killing, and he's like, yeah, I'd say so. And then back in the present, he's talking to the little girl, and she's asking him, what's your name? And he says James, and he goes, what's yours? And she says Maureen, and the woman in the flashback says her name's Maureen. So he goes, yep, I'm exactly where I want to be. He says, Maureen, the woman I would marry. One look in her eyes, and I knew she was like me.
So this is his future redheaded wife in the past.
Yes. Well, in this past, yes.
Aww. Except now he's like 1,002 years old and she's like 4.
Yeah, but he says, this may or may not be my past, but one thing's for sure, I'll never meet Maureen, not the way I did. We will never fall in love. We will never have Scotty and Jade. But I can still do one thing. I can keep her safe. I can make sure she grows up without those scars. And I will never let anything hurt her again.
Aww.
But I'm guessing something might threaten that, because at the end they show, I don't know if it's the same wolf, but it's been killed. And by who? Looks like Lady Deathstrike. And I don't know if I recognize any of the people behind her, but...
We're going to assume they're, what were they, the Ravagers, the Reavers?
Maybe the Reavers, maybe?
Yeah, the Reavers, that's what they were.
Yeah. Maybe a newer version, because they Looks like most of them might have their... Well, oh, no, that might be the Reavers. Yeah, the one guy looks like he has a tank instead of legs. Okay.
Yeah. It's been a long time since the... what was that? Mutant Massacre issues. When I actually read the X-Men for a brief period.
Or even like when they were in, what do you call it? Australia.
Yeah, well, I didn't read those. I just Mutant Massacre. That was during the Mutant Registration Act. That was when I actually got into X-Men for a very brief period. So anything from that narrow window. In fact, I remember Alchemy, who was introduced in what was it? Not X Factor. It was the spinoff of X Factor with the kids and the one kid who had the wheelchair but could transmogrify matter into anything, which is an insanely amazing power, like Molecule Man level, but no one ever did anything with him. Every so often they create these Omega level mutants that they just sort of leave lying around until some writer says, hey, remember that guy that could basically turn any matter into anything else? So I think Alchemy came back and he was the villain in the Avengers Academy thing, but I'm not sure because... That was during Inferno. Was Alchemy was introduced? But I remember because you could create your own mutant and you'd send in your thing, and the mutant that was created was this kid who could turn anything into any element. Mm-hmm. He just had to think of the element, and he could turn anything into gold. It was a great plotline in Inferno. Basically, the goblins wanted to have him turn all of London into gold, thinking that would drive all the humans away. But it would collapse, or it would cause... I forget exactly what their plan was, but basically Beast explained how actually the economy of gold would be destroyed if you turned the entire island of England into gold. So, yes. I remember I read mutant books once.
Back in the day, but
back in the day.
Yeah. Old Man Logan, it was good. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. In the 90s, man, that was when the X-Men were cool. When they had their cartoon, man. X-Men 92. Got to read that. Okay, so you just finished with the Wolverine, so let's go to Squirrel Girl. My buck. Thumbs up. This is, Squirrel Girl and Howard are... I don't have Howard. No, Howard's next week. They're a lot of fun because they're really just so playing with stuff. So this one opens with Galactus in a smoking jacket with a gigantic snifter of cognac, or some brown cosmic liquid that he's drinking with little planets on the swizzle stick. And he's basically playing the watcher role here, basically saying that this is a Squirrel Girl simulator where you will get to do a choose-your-own adventure. And they do this really fun choose-your-own adventure. First, we meet a new villain called Bonehead, who has used a serum to make his bones extra strong. And they decide and you get to choose how you attack him. You can punch him in his bony head. That does not work. You can use your tail to knock him over. He says, this only strengthens my desire to steal these vegetables at a farmer's market, and he's stealing vegetables. Or you can send squirrels on his pants. Chomsky goes on his pants and bites him. Chomsky's taking one for the team, as she tells Tippy Tail. Sees that Detective Corson they have two problems. They have a god, Quaggoth, who has awoken in Central Park. He wants to bring gibbering madness to his fallen realm. And Dr. Yes has a killer disease that he's going to destroy the world with, and you can choose which villain you'll fight. If you choose Quaggoth, then Squirrel Girl realizes that he's like 90% eyeballs, and which is like the most vulnerable part. So she sends a bunch of squirrels to poke them in the eye. If you choose Dr. Yes, she finds out that the super disease he has in this capsule is not effective on squirrels. And no matter which one you choose, you come to the same location, which is Detective Corson saying, the other problem was handled with good old-fashioned police work, and we're good. Next, we find out Squirrel Girl hears a strange buzzing sound. You can either investigate, or you can go home and study calculus, and you can study harder, or go back and check on that buzzy sound. If you study too hard, Squirrel Girl forgets to eat and dies. Otherwise, you go back and see that it's the swarm. You get all of the information from Deadpool's cards about the swarm. He's made of bees. He's made of bees, people, and can communicate with bees, which makes him extra dangerous. And he's invulnerable to squirrel powers, apparently, because he can move his bees out of the way. So you can either choose to give up, in which case you see that the president that the bees have taken over, because and incidentally, Swarm is here because of colony collapse disorder, which Squirrel Girl agrees with. They have to do something, but killing all humans is not the way to do it. Squirrel Girl, if you choose to never give up, she can attack. Basically, it is so much fun. Eventually, she calls on Koi Boy. Koi Boy helps her defeat the swarm either with a tidal wave or by spitting water at them, as the archer fish does from Australia, of which Koi Boy teaches the fish of the Hudson River how to do the squirting water at insects attack to knock them out of the sky. Squirrel Girl captures the queen bee and gives a bunch of the soggy bees to everyone else. There's a secret bonus ending where she gets Iron Man armor to defeat Swarm as well. It's just so much fun. It's just a lot of great fun. Everything is exciting. It's really one of the best Squirrel Girl in an always great book, Squirrel Girl, which is Squirrel Girl. This is just such a fun conceit. You know, if you want a fun book that takes place in the Marvel Universe, this is a certain fun book. I highly recommend it. There's even a secret ending. You get a legally binding Galactus bill for free snacks. You have a bonus comic where we meet the guy in the computer science program who's just trying to get good grades, who is studying hard despite all of the craziness going on. Then he's waiting on the day of the final for some Galactus attack, and nothing happens, of course. Just big thumbs up to Squirrel Girl. There's a reason it's unbeatable.
Mm-hmm. All right. Then I will go to International Iron Man number 2.
Oh, he's international.
We got a little more in the present, but there was still some flashback in this, from 20 years ago.
Yeah, too much flashbacky, I think.
Yeah, I'm not. They need to get on with the present, but in the flashback, it starts with the flashback. He wakes up after he got shot last time, but he's all bandaged up, and he's at the Gillespie house, and basically, what's the name of the woman he's at odds with now? Cassandra. Cassandra's mother's sitting downstairs, and she's telling him how brave he was, and basically, she's like, why are you so brave? And he's like, I didn't even realize what I was doing. And they're basically, she was like, she came from nothing, and she had to fight for everything she had. But she's like, but you, son of Howard Stark, how did you learn this? Basically, all said and done, I think she was basically saying he's good enough for her daughter, so.
Yeah, but that didn't go very far, because then in comes who?
Cassandra comes in, and then they're talking outside, and he was like, Tony's like, I think I killed a guy, and she's like, if you did, it was a bad guy. But then they kiss, and everything seems good. But then once he gets back to Cambridge 2 days later, his father comes to pick up. Well, Howard Stark comes to pick him up.
Yeah. Well, it's his father. It's the guy who raised him.
Yeah. Well, he's saying, he's like, get in the car. I don't want to get in the car. So Howard basically has his guys throw him in the car. He's like, Howard's like, I'll take you to a real doctor. He's like, not those Euro mob doctors handing out pills and leeches. And then
I really love that.
No, but Tony's all like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, do you know what a honeypot is? It's a spy trade term. gorgeous girls sucking a guy, get him to do exactly what she wants, exactly when she wants him to do it. And he's like, what? He's like, I pursued her. And Howard's like, did you?
Yeah, I love that scene, by the way.
Oh, you saw it?
I browsed. I browsed
Okay.
this one too when I was deciding not to buy it.
Okay.
Because again,
But then-
too flashback. You know what? Just reveal it in the mystery.
I know. But instead of making us wait to the last page or two, then we're like halfway through the book and they flash to the present, you know. He's telling Cassandra she's under arrest, and he's like, if I could arrest you for messing me up for all women, I'd do it, but I'll settle for illegal trade of illegal weapons to known international terrorists. She's like, I don't recognize your authority. He's like, well, I don't mean to tell you your business, but you should. I'm kind of a big deal. And then she's like, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to take your armor as compensation for interrupting my business. She's basically going to let him go. She's like, but I'm telling you, if I even catch a Google search coming from your part of the world, I will start taking things from you. You have people you care about. Basically threatening him. He's like, Cassandra, I'm not going to let you sell weapons to terrorists. It's not going to happen. You know that. She's like, oh, terrorists. You with your labels. She's like, how many people consider you more of a terrorist than people I sell to? And he's like, well, to be fair, most people are fairly stupid. And I find there is an anti-facial hair bias out there. People don't talk about it enough, but it's real.
Hey, Tony, you do know you're a billionaire, right?
But they
no one
addressed
cares
it.
about your.
Yeah, remember last time we were talking about, we've never heard of her before, and all of a sudden she just appears. He's like, Cassandra, you hid from me for 20 years, and she's like, I'm very good at it. Also, you weren't looking. He's like, I go looking for my biological father, and I find you. She goes, I know. He goes, are you my father?
Oh, Howard.
She goes, I know you won't believe me, but you're better off not knowing who your father is. He's like, actually, I do believe you, but how about a hint? She's like, walk away, Tony. He's like, is it Victor Von Doom? She's like, take the armor, leave the man.
Hey, we thought of that first, International Iron Man.
Yeah, I know. But he basically starts up the armor and tells Friday go. She's saying their power cells are low. But because all Cassandra's men are in armor. He's like, I'm like the leading armor weapon system expert on the planet, right? And one of the guys in armor's like, yeah, so. He's like, seriously, aren't you even a little jazzed to meet me? You owe your whole deal to me. So basically starts fighting them. And Cassandra's in a ship, taking off in a ship, and he's telling Friday we're going after them. But Friday's saying their power's almost out. Like their power cells at 1%. He loses the copter she was in. And then, I guess these are upgraded mandroids he's fighting. And she's saying, we're still surrounded by mandroids of a much higher caliber than we were prepared for. Hull breach imminent. Power cells depleted. You cannot fly. You cannot win the fight. You can't retreat. The hull has been breached. To be continued.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, a lot better than last time. Like I said, we got half a book in the present instead of like 2 pages.
Yeah, I guess what my thing is like, if you want to, digging out the lost love of the past, it's always a little, it's just a little complicated, It's like, it's like if they suddenly introduced that there was a girl Peter dated like before Gwen Stacy, like between Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy, there was, Lucy Feldspar, and he and Lucy Feldspar had a whole thing that was his real deepest love before she moved to Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
Just it's like, really, and we haven't mentioned this once. And it's not like there's not some girl. And here's the thing I'm going to say about stuff like this. It's not like you couldn't find some once mentioned girl in Howard Stark's past that you could have built a story around, someone who didn't have a lot of backstory. Mm-hmm. It's like if you brought back was Carmen Ferrari into Steve Rogers' story, or you brought back, or Bernie Rosenthal, which they've done. They've brought back Bernie Rosenthal once or twice, just to have a character with, real history with this character. I don't know. Well, I guess sometimes they don't. Maybe they didn't really have a lot of named females there that they could reach out to. Mm-hmm. And really, Tony Stark wasn't quite the ladies' man until of course Robert Downey Jr. decided that he should be one. He was always a playboy, but you never always had him like with women on his arms. Yeah. That was because let's face it, this is for young impressionable kids. We don't want him going too crazy. Anyway. Mm-hmm. Okay. Was that a thumbs up?
Yes, thumbs up.
Okay. Well, from International Iron Man, let's go to very local, for me at least, Ms. Marvel, Jersey Strong. We open up and there's a giant Kamala saying "easy peasy" as she stomps on her brother's wedding, not wedding thing, but sort of the pre-wedding introduced families dinner. And before they get stepped on, Ms. Marvel shows up and stops the foot, lifts it, and battles her giant doppelganger, who throws her. He is and you see Kamala's father sort of rolling his eyes. Bruno calls, and he's talking about, what if we made a giant dinosaur to eat all the clones? And she's like, that sounds like a really bad idea. And, of course, he's already halfway through building it. And then we see that the dinosaur has been unleashed. And Jersey City is screaming. People are saying, this stuff never happened until that Ms. Marvel showed up. She's a menace, I tell ya. Saw that coming, kids. She uses her special call subspace communicator to call Captain Marvel because she realizes this is way out of her league. Meanwhile, Bruno, and I want to say her name is Rosie, his girlfriend, they're trying to conjure Loki with candles and lattes and weird drawings on the floor because they really don't know anything about how you conjure an actual Norse god. And then you realize that that Loki, who's sitting there with a big bucket of popcorn, has been watching them the whole time. He says, really? So this worked? And he says, no, when I boarded this place, I put in a mirror spell so I could always watch you. So meanwhile, Loki creates an army of his original lightning goblins to attack the other clones, and then Ms. Marvel shows up and calls down a targeted laser strike from Alpha Flight Station. She wants to arrest Loki. He's saying, hey, I was helping, because we all know Loki's a hero. Deep down, he wants to be a hero. Then Iron Man shows up. And then you get into this whole thing between Captain Marvel and Iron Man, sort of mom and dad fighting. Like, you're pushing her too hard. Hey, she said she could handle it. Yada, yada, yada. And basically, they both agree that, Kamala, you've got to take time for yourself. You're a kid. You're new to the business. It doesn't help anyone if you don't do your own thing. And so she goes to her brother's wedding, which is a great scene because he's wearing a North African style dress and she's wearing a Pakistani style dress because he wanted to show her that he accepted her and her culture into his life, her aspect of Muslim culture into his life, and she wanted to show him that she accepted his, yada yada. It's so sweet. And then they kiss before the ceremony, which the dad is like, "Are you kidding? You don't kiss now." But the moms are so happy, everything, and it's a sweet, beautiful way to end the scene. Big thumbs up for Ms. Marvel. Jersey proud, Jersey City in the house. Like I said, it's all local, but I do love Ms. Marvel. I continue to love Ms. Marvel. It's a great way to balance. It's a great thing to have a Spider-Man story that takes place in a world where superheroes have been around for like 10 to 15 to 20 years. So you have elder superheroes who could be there that Peter Parker never had. I'm hard on Parker about how, Marconi and Otto have to pull his bacon out of the fire pretty much every episode. But, Peter never had anyone that was there to tell him, hey, we can work you through this. We can walk you through this. Here's some ideas that might help you focus on being a good student and taking care of your family and being a superhero. And Kamala has that, and that's a good thing. So big thumbs up for Ms. Marvel, number 6.
All right, let's get to it. The one all of you have been waiting for, including Charlie. Avengers Standoff, Assault on Pleasant Hill, Omega #1, the conclusion.
Oh, I was so mad that was sold out at the store. I got to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
I completely forgotten about it. Had it not been sold out, I'm sure I would have grabbed it. Mm-hmm. But it's like, and I was thinking, I got to text them, say, make sure you pull that for me. And I just completely blanked on it. Oh, well. So what happened, Phil?
Well, it opens up, Avril Kincaid, that S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, she's narrating a lot of this book, but basically it opens up with Zemo. He has, like, the captured S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. He has, like, explosive vests strapped to some of them, and basically he shoots some of them in the head. I don't know why, but he's like...
Because he's a villain and a Nazi and evil, maybe?
Yeah, but he already had explosives, like, strapped to them, so I don't know why he just did that, but...
Well, we established in Captain America he doesn't plan very well ahead. He was all because, he had a plan, and then the infinitely powerful cosmic cube being didn't go along with it.
Yeah. But, so, he's basically telling the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that are still alive, he's like, the rest of you... you're going to have to live to see me remake the world in my image, and you and your families are going to, serve me, yada, yada. Then they flash to, here's the scene you're going to kick yourself for, Charlie. We get the tea party. Craven's having the tea party with Kovic.
Oh, it worked.
Yes, they're sitting there, and, Kovic's like, she's like, she knows trapsters in the bushes, and, Craven's like, it's all right. He's like, these are your friends, our friends, Trapster and Fixter. He's like, look, they even brought you a gift. And she's like, what is it? And they're like, here's like, let him turn it on. Here, look closer. And boom, they trapped her in the containment device, Charlie. And they're taking her to Zemo. But then at the Pleasant Hill Museum, remember Avril was she was looking for a secret weapon. Well, she's following the older gentleman, and she was like,
who he could be.
Do you know who it is?
Yeah, I did. I did get that. Okay. Since I didn't have the book, I read spoilers for it. Yeah, so I know what's going on.
Okay, well, yeah, his identity gives away what she's looking for, but she's like, I don't know who you are. She's like, I knew everyone else's, and he says, I wasn't sentenced here. He's like, I asked to come here. He says, he's like, it wasn't easy. I'm not used to staying in one place for too long. He's like, but I wielded a power so great it could make a universe tremble, but it took a toll on me. I started to lose control. So I went to Maria Hill and asked her to find a way to keep this power from falling into the wrong hands. He's like,
for what it's worth, I found it very fascinating, the idea that he asked to be in Pleasant Hill, Maria Hill wanted to be in Pleasant Hill. Mm-hmm. All these people who wanted to get away from basically the craziness of superhumanity,
Mm-hmm. So for everyone who didn't read the spoilers, it turns out this is Wendell Vaughn. So of course the weapons she's looking for are the quantum bands.
Yay, quantum bands!
I don't know, this makes me a little sad. I like Wendell Vaughn as Quasar.
Well, yeah, but now he gets to be the mentor.
Yeah.
He gets to be the Alfred, It's like if the Great Ghost had, mentored Batman. It's awesome.
If I can't get Wendell Vaughn Quasar, I hope they come out, well, there's so many books already, but hopefully they get a Quasar book and they have him mentoring her.
Yeah. Well, I got the feeling from the spoiler I read that that's the intention. That when you get the Quasar book, it's going to be Wendell and Vaughn, and he's going to be like, this is how you use the quantum bands, and she's going to be like, didn't the quantum bands try to destroy you? It's like, don't bother me with facts,
Yeah. And so then we get the other scene, the Captain America's hooked back up with the Avengers, and everyone's like in shock that Steve's young again. Like we didn't know that was coming. But Tony's all like, I got de-aged once too, and Thor's like, I thought you said you never wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. Meta.
And of course, we don't get a lot of Deadpool this issue, but we got a classic Deadpool right here. He goes, "Woohoo! Finally, Captain Ameribro is back." He's like, "Goodbye, lights out at 10. Hello, keggers till dawn. This team just got way hotter shirtless."
Depending on the artist.
Yeah, and then Johnny Storm's talking to Quicksilver. He says, "This has got to bring you back, huh, Pietro?" He's like, "Just like the old kooky quartet days." And Quicksilver says, "Don't ever call me kooky." And then Kamala and Miles Morales and Sam, Nova are all standing around, and they're like, what are they going on about? He's still kind of old.
Yes.
And then Steve's basically telling them, Zemo's taking over the town, and we gotta stop him. He's like, I look around, and to be honest, I'm not sure what I see anymore. It feels like we've spent so long at each other's throats, splintering, fighting amongst ourselves, letting our differences tear us apart, and made us weaker. And weak is what we can't afford to be any longer.
At least for this issue.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I know some of you are still pretty new at this, but I believe in each and every one of you. He's like, that you'll know what to do when you hear the call. Avengers, assemble!
Dun, da, da.
And they all take off. We get the title page. Then they show Fixer and Trapster come back, and Fixer's like, "Zemo, I got her. The containment unit worked." He's like, and Zemo's like, "Can you revert her to a cube state, make her compliant?" And Fixer's like, "Yeah, I should be able to. Just need some more time." And then the Trapster said, "That's not all we got." He's like, "Look who we found trying to sneak out of the doctor's office. It's Maria Hill and Eric Selving." He's like, Zemo's like, "Oh, Maria Hill, thank heavens you're all right." And she's like, "Yeah." "I got your card. It was the one with the swastika on it, right?" And he's like, "You joke." He's like, "But I really wanted you to see this." He's like, "After all, none of this would have been possible without all your hard work. You and Dr. Selvig's."
Wah, wah.
And then he's like, "Any sign of Steve Rogers?" And they're like, "No." Trapster's like, "No, I thought you had him." And Moonstone's like, "Great, why did you even let him go in the first place, Zemo?" He's like, I can't. I remember there was someone with him." And of course, it's the Red Skull's getting in a chopper to take off. So, he used his mental powers.
Zemo, you are such a schmuck.
Yeah. And then he's saying it doesn't matter.
Villain thing, are you, Zemo?
He's all like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. We have Kobik now, and no one else, Rogers and no one else can hide from us." And meanwhile, Zemo's guys are just starting to disappear. Between Quicksilver and the rest of the Avengers, they took him out.
Yeah, let's not forget, this is Helmut Zemo, not Heinrich Zemo. If you name your son after a hat, you probably don't have that respect for him. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so basically the Avengers are mopping up the villains, and Steve's telling the Avengers, get the Fixer, focus on recovering Kobik. So basically, Zemo pulls out his secret weapon, which is Graviton, who basically puts up some kind of gravity shield around them. The Avengers can't break through. But guess who walks in and now has the power to break through the Graviton shield eventually?
Molecule Man?
No, Agent Avril with the quantum bands.
Avril, yes. Quantum bands.
Yep. So they knock down the shield, they free Kobik, who basically breaks out and grows to giant size and says, "That was very mean!"
Off to the cornfield, Zemo.
Yeah, she was like, "I was just trying to make you all happy, and you tried to hurt me. Why?" Yeah. And Bucky looks
Don't mess with Francine.
Yeah, Bucky looks like he's about to shoot her, and Sam Wilson's like, "No, you can't do that." And basically Kobik uses her power to throw Bucky out the window.
Yeah.
She's like, "He's fine, dummy. I don't kill people. Not like you, jerk." And she's pointing at Zemo.
Yeah.
And then Selvig's trying to calm her down, and Zemo and Selvig are trying to calm her down. And she's like, "Both of you, just shut up. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you all." She's like, "I wish you would all just go away." And then Zemo and Selvig disappear, and they reappear 11,000 miles away in the Himalayan mountains.
Oh goodness! Them together?
Yes, yeah, Selvig and Zemo, because Zemo's like, "I've never been good with children."
Zemo.
And,
He's not as fast of us.
Yeah, so Kobik's going on. She's like, "I don't want to be here anymore. I hate this place." And Nova's going, "I don't blame you, kid." So Fixer's like, Zemo's gone, and everyone's like, "What do we do now?" Like, it's absorbing it. It's like, "What do we do now?" And Moonstone's like, "What do you think, idiots? Run!" So they all start running, and the Avengers chase after him. But meanwhile, it looks like Dum Dum Dugan showed up with some backup. There's planes, and the Avengers are cleaning up. And meanwhile, in the middle of the battle, Sam Wilson's talking to Steve Rogers, and he says, "So I've been thinking." He's like, "You should be Captain America again." And Steve's like, "Sam, I told you before, that's your job now." And Sam says, "Hey, I didn't say I was quitting." And Steve says, "You mean we share it?" And Sam says, "Yeah, why not? There's 2 Spider-Mans these days. You see that? If they can do it." And Steve's like, "It's a little different." But then Sam's like, "Maybe, but seeing you rally the troop before made me realize we need you, Steve. The country needs you." And Steve says, "No, it needs us both."
Oh.
So...
Captain's America! Yay!
So the Avengers are fighting, and
Agatha Harkness as Agent 13.
So basically, we see Avril's like, I don't know who she's talking to, but she was like, "It was a memory we'd all cling tightly to, the thing that would help get us through the darkest days ahead. Once it all started to go wrong, once the war began."
Uh-oh.
And then back at Shield HQ, after I guess they mop up the villains, the council calls Maria Hill on the carpet, and they're basically saying, yeah, this. She's telling them, they cleaned up, and they kept Pleasant Hill out of the public eye, and she even struck an agreement with the Avengers leadership, who we see as Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson, Rogue, Vision, and Tony Stark. They all agreed to keep the whole thing top secret.
Were there no Ultimates there?
No.
Oh!
No, I guess it was the 2 Avengers teams, yeah.
Yeah, the Ultimates got cut out, man.
Yeah.
Well, they were busy with Galactus, I guess.
Yeah, but then they're asking her about the Whisperer, and then I guess Rick was in a bunker hiding out somewhere, but Steve found them, and Rick's like, "I'm surprised." He's like, "I'm glad you no longer qualify for the AARP discount at Red Lobster." That's awesome.
Well, technically, he still qualifies. He is still 85 years old. He just looks 26.
Rick's been hiding out in this bunker with and Steve's like, "Yeah, it happened a few weeks ago at Pleasant Hill." And Rick's like, "I am so out of the loop. No Twitter, no Facebook, no Instagram. You know what that's like after building a whole new brand for yourself on hacktivism?" He's like, "Go ahead, arrest me." He's like, "I'll go to any jail as long as there's a computer in the library." And Steve's saying, "I'm not here to arrest you. I don't agree with everything you did, but you're no good to anyone rotting in the cell. So I have a better idea how you can make amends instead. You see, I have a job for you." So I don't know if he's going to work for Steve or S.H.I.E.L.D., but
yeah. Well, from what I heard, he is going to be like the supporting cast for Steve's new book. It's going to be Steve and Rick and Carol, and they're going to be that's the Steve Rogers Captain America book. Then, of course, in Sam Wilson, it's D-Man and Misty and Sam, and I think Falcon too, although I don't know how much Falcon's going to be in that.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the prequels.
Yeah, but then Maria's telling the council they have another new recruit. Then we see Wendell helping Avril, focus on making quantum constructs, and he's like, "It's not easy," and she's like, "Will I really be able to do all these things?" And Wendell says, "With the proper training, that and a whole lot more." Quasar. So I guess she's officially Quasar now. Yeah.
Yep, she is.
Yeah. And then Maria's been trying to downplay all this, and the council's like, really? They're like, you pretend this isn't one of the greatest failures in S.H.I.E.L.D. history? And they're like, and then where's Kobik? And she's basically trying to, tell them, oh yeah, she probably left the planet and all this. And then, but we see Kobik hooked up with Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, you can't send me back there. They'll try to hurt me again. And he's like, okay, maybe for a little while. And she's like, yay, can we bring my friends too? And he's like, friends. And she's like, uh-huh. Then we see the Fixer, Moonstone, and Atlas trying to get away from S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And we see Mach 7. And she's like, you're going to like them.
They're the Thunderbolts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then she...
Francine.
Yeah, Maria Hill's trying to leave the council, but they're like, not so fast, and they're like officially you'll still be in charge, but all your decisions are gonna have to run through us now. And she's like, really? She's like, you're all here in hologram form. You couldn't even be bothered to show up for this in person. She's like, my map is lighting up all over again. This is not the time for this. We need to start asking questions and start listening, because trust me, you have no idea what's coming. And then our final scene, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it's in a bar. I don't know where this bar is at, but there's a lot of Nazis and swastikas.
Of course.
Because, it's the Red Skull, and he's with Crossbones and Sin. And, because, I guess they're talking about Zemo, and, Red Skull saying, Zemo's an idiot, recruiting every third-rate criminal in a garish costume, concocting harebrained schemes, dreaming of ruling the world. He's like, do you know what having the ability to overtake minds with such ease has taught me? The emptiness of it. That true submission is voluntary. If you want to rule the world, you cannot simply break it. You must change it. I see in my soul the coming revolution. I see the destruction of the old systems and the birth of something new, something better, stronger. Cut off one head and two more shall take its place.
Hey, Hydra!
He's like, I will not use my telepathic powers to compel people. Instead, I will inspire them. They will serve us willingly. He's like, we will challenge them to prove their devotion, and once they have done that, a new nation will be born. Hail Hydra!
I will build a wall and make the Moloids pay for it.
But yeah, just from the previews I've seen, it looks like, I don't know if Zemo's going to try to, resurrect his version of Hydra too, so they're going to be, at odds with each other, Red Skull and Zemo.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what happens in the movie, and then we'll know what'll happen in the books.
But, yeah, lots of stuff. It was pretty good. Good conclusion.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
It sounds awesome. I'm really sad I missed it. But you gotta email your, for these things that come out that aren't tied to an official book, you gotta email your comic book shop owner to let them know to pull it, or go into the shop yourself if you have the luxury of going into the shop more than once a week, and say, make sure you put that book in my pull list. Because remember, kids, if you don't pull it, it doesn't get bought. Important words to live by. Comic books are a dying industry, man, just like all other print media. Anyway, yeah, not really dying, just more in a weird place. I don't know. But if you like a book, you have to buy it. If you don't buy the book, then they're not going to keep on making them. Yeah. And we won't get to see Agatha Harkness playing Sharon Carter, not Carol. Sharon Carter. Yeah, I was looking at the previews for the new Steve Rogers Captain America, and she's 42. Really. And she was in the alternate universe for 12 years. They gave a specific time for how long it was, 12 years, because you have little, what's his name? Little Nomad growing up from, Ian Rogers, as we're going to say, a 10-year-old, 13-year-old to, a 22, 25-year-old. Okay. Clear as a bell. Carol, Sharon Carter goes in. I'm sorry. It's if the Marvel Universe is only 15 to 20 years old, okay, maybe she was 20. It doesn't make a lot of sense. They're drawing her too old, is what I'm saying. Anyway, on to Squadron Supreme. I just mentioned that because they have the Steve Rogers Captain America cover as your splash page when you open up. So going here, we have Dr. Spectrum. She's remembering when her world was destroyed. She remembers Black Bolt saving her, but then she remembers more this time, which is she tries to use her power crystal against him. He uses his voice against her, and that was different. And it says, "What are you doing?" Then we get to her under the ocean. She's running through. She's doing a lot of thoughts in her head here. You know, she said she's the one that they sent. They could have sent Hyperion, but he's off on his own thing. You know, she gets attacked by Atlanteans because the Atlanteans are, as you might imagine, having their city destroyed. Not friends of the Squadron, but she basically dispatches them all quite quick. You get to a quick flash of all the things the Squadron have done, defeating the Magia, stopping whaling ships off the coast of Japan, you know, how they're really starting to function as a team. That this thing that Nighthawk is investigating is some sort of alliance between different alien races that they're trying to sort out. And then we get a nice little cut to Oracle Incorporated. The Oracle Tower in New York, Manhattan, which is interesting because I know that our Nighthawk is going to be based in Chicago. But he's doing a little narration to himself. It says, "All I require is Dr. Spectrum to return with the data the Badoon told me was hidden under the sea, and then we strike." And who should come to confront Nighthawk? Do you imagine, Phil? Who in the Marvel Universe might have the power to confront Nighthawk?
Hyperion?
No, Nighthawk! Yes, the 616 version. And it says, well, apparently he's back from outer space. Just came here to find him there with that sad look upon his face. It says, because he's talking to his Ms. Caro, who's his secretary, and this voice says, I gave her the day off, because we're going to give him the Batman voice. I thought we needed time alone so we could discuss all the things we have in common. Let's start with the name, Nighthawk. Man, I don't know how Batman does it. That's a very scratchy voice. We cut to Hyperion driving down the highway, drinking coffee. Cut to Archon and Thundra talking, and she's like, it's not like we really had a relationship, yada yada. I don't know. I don't quite know exactly how they're writing Thundra, but I guess maybe Thundra has lived in the world of men long enough that she's going to take on some. Because she refers to herself as a girl. You know, she says a girl knows. You know, if you're not into this, and Archon's like, I'm not good with words, but I will miss you. Now be with this squadron. So she goes off to join the squadron. Meanwhile, Dr. Spectrum is at the secret underground base where there's a bunch of different alien races: a Kree, a Skrull, not a dire wraith. I forget what that big yellow head creatures, but they're all working together. Although we did see dire wraiths in a previous thing working in this too.
Is it the Brood?
No, it's not the. That looks like a gray alien, but it's all wrinkly and yellow with big red eyes. I'm not quite sure. There is a Terran in there, as well as what might be a pink Kree as well. I'm not sure. Anyway, Dr. Spectrum goes to attack, and much like Gwenpool the other day, finds that someone else has already attacked everybody. And comes in to find an Inhuman there who has been also researching this. And Dr. Spectre says, seems like you've done an awful lot for someone alone. And the guy says, what makes you say I'm here by myself? And then we see Black Bolt. And then next issue, this is the Through the Lens storyline, which is the next 3 issues, or the next 2 issues. Next issue, the cover has Nighthawk versus Nighthawk, which should be interesting. Thumbs up. Still like the Squadron. I do like their take on these characters. I like that they're all from these dead worlds, and they're all trying to put something together. That they have this idea. It amazes me a bit that they're still not Public Enemy #1, but I guess at the end of the day, not for nothing, all the power brokers of the world are human, and a few dead Atlanteans aren't their concern, I guess that's what it comes down to, which is in its own way kind of sad, kind of speciesist, but it's true, So yeah, big thumbs up for Squadron Supreme. Cool.
All right. And I will jump to the book you thumbed through, Amazing Spider-Man 11.
Yay! Peter.
It opens up with Nick Fury on the International Space Station, but he can't communicate with anyone because him and Spider-Man destroyed most of the satellites. So Parker, none of the Parker...
Peter doesn't think things through.
Yes, and none of the Parker Industries people can contact him. But meanwhile, Zodiac, he had some Zodiac mask that he used to brainwash some innocent people, so he has them standing around. I guess he's getting close to whatever he's planning. But then there's a bunch of lights in the sky, and Peter and Mockingbird are all them. What's that? And Peter figures it out. Then they go back to Zodiac, and he's asking his fortune tellers, what if Spider-Man interferes? But then that's when Spider-Man and Mockingbird and the Living Brain show up. And Zodiac, Scorpio's like, this is impossible. How did you find me? And Peter's like, you could say we got a little help from above. And the lights in the sky, Charlie, it was Nick Fury using a laser to link them to the location in Morse code.
Ah, yay.
And Scorpio's like, this is the moment of my ascension, the reason this key was forged, and with it I am unstoppable. He blasts them, and basically he said Scorpio says his father told him these stories, and the Zodiac key could fulfill its one true purpose. And he says, no one in S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Avengers ever thought to ask what a giant key was actually for. As he's about to go down in like some cavern thing, and as he's saying that, Peter jumps at him and says, monologuing! Ha! You're my new favorite! And Scorpio's like, Mono, what? And he says, The Incredibles, Pixar, you gotta watch it, very educational. No capes! So he's beating on Scorpio. Scorpio. He takes the key and he says, he's like, well, what about if somebody gets there first? And he runs in with the key, and he's like, oh, well, Spider-Man's like, oh, what's a giant key for? A giant lock on a giant door, but what's on the other side? But somehow Scorpio calls the key back to him. It just like flies to him, and Peter's like, that's not fair. And he's like, the key has a bond. And Scorpio's like, the key has a bond with my family and the original Scorpio, my grandfather. We have not been properly introduced. I am Vernon Jacob Fury.
Yay, the Fury Boys.
So basically, Peter's trying to web him out, and he says, he uses web cartridge number 7, the concrete webbing. He says, there, that stuff could stop the Hulk. As the Scorpio key comes through, and he says, really gotta stop saying that. Hulk's gonna start taking it personal after a while. So they're fighting, and then Scorpio gets the key in and unlocks the door. All you see is like this whitish blue light, and
almost as if it were beyond something.
Yeah, but I guess it lets him see a year in the future. He says it's all filling my head, and he starts singing it, listing everything he sees. He says, Regent, heroes at each other's throats, new you, Norman Osborn, so that's where you've been hiding. Monsters on the rise, Sky Spears, and, oh, Otto Octavius. Well, that explains everything. So Peter's like, that's as bad. The Zodiac were nearly unstoppable when he could see one day into the future. What would happen if they could see a year into the future? So he basically pushes Scorpio into the whatever this room is, and he says, are you sure? He says, here, take a closer look. Pushes him in. Peter slams the door closed and locks it, and he says, bet you didn't see that coming. And then meanwhile, Mockingbird's cleaning up outside, and the ship that Miss Marconi was in Crash, so the Living Brain's digging it out, and he's screaming, Anna Marie, are you all right? Speak to me. And she's like, I'm fine, Brain. She's like, see, foam airbag. She's like, were you yelling? And he says, volume control damaged, adjusting, better now. So did you see the last page, Charlie?
Remind me, what's on it?
Well, first Mockingbird takes the Scorpio key from Spider-Man. She goes, this is going back to S.H.I.E.L.D. 2. She goes, yoink. And he says, yoink. He's like, that's my thing. He's like, Anna, she said yoinked. And Anna Marie says, that's because she likes you.
Oh, yes.
He's like, really? She's like, shh, watch. Bet we can make her jealous. And she like grabs Peter's arm and is like holding onto his arm. Mm-hmm. And the last two panels is the Living Brain thinking,
yes,
this is intolerable. I cannot wait any longer. I must accelerate my plans. The time has come for Otto Octavius to make his superior return.
Yes, of course, Otto. Just tell Anna that you're in the Living Brain.
No, he wants to.
Just like, don't go blow up the world. Anna, I need to tell you something.
He wants to speak a new body.
Otto. I get that, but then maybe they can work together and get him a new body. As I've said, Parker clones are a dime a dozen. There's like 12 running around right now.
He's an egomaniac.
I understand that, but it's like, goodness, man.
Or they might not even think that's really him. They might be like, oh, the Living Brain's been corrupted. We've got to wipe its memory.
No, they wouldn't do that to poor Otto. He was a hero for a while there. And Parker, he's an old softy. He'd give the sample to clone a new body. It's like, I always wanted a brother Otto. You can be Otto Parker or Otto Riley. There we go.
Yeah, thumbs up. What's your last solo book?
Oh, my last solo book. Oh man. Oh wow, it's only been so long. Okay. Hellcat versus Hetty. Patsy Walker, a.k.a. Hellcat, versus Hetty. Issue number 5. We open up in Jennifer Walters' office, talking to Hetty Wolf, who is being her normal, somewhat evil self. Then cut to Roosevelt Island, where Hellcat, Bag Lady, and Valkyrie are being held by Cassiolena. Cassiolena has basically been having her people start to destroy Manhattan. Hetty Wolf's about to leave. Says basically we have a binding contract, and then who should show up but Tubby and Ian. Da-da-da-da! Who basically say that, Hellcat's in trouble. It's the one app I taught her how to use on her new cell phone. So they go to Roosevelt Island to do battle. They're interrupted by one of Cassiolena's lackey who's destroying things. Hellcat, She-Hulk, he's basically telling She-Hulk that Cassiolena promised to wipe out his student loans. Battle ensues. We cut to Cassiolena. Her lackey, Papo the Cunning, has been captured, and Cassiolena is not being very helpful to him. In should ride She-Hulk, Ian, and Tubby on Argon, or Aragorn, the winged horse, who is not a magical winged horse, by the way, subject of genetic engineering by the original Black Knight. Fun fact. Although I guess he's not really the original Black Knight, because the current Black Knight is actually from the medieval period, so I'm not sure. Anyway, She-Hulk takes out Cassiolena. We find out that Papa was the one who actually sent the text, the emergency find me text to Telekian, because he was sick of working with Cassiolena, because he's her lackey, but he was just chilling out in Asgardia when she got herself banished. Basically, Hellcat's going to hire all these people to work at her temp agency. Patsy Walker even got her storage closet back to be her office for her temp agency. She shows off her cool new tattoo. And then we see the final scene. Hetty Wolf coming to Alias Investigations, asking someone to dig up all the dirt on Hellcat. Where has she been? So we got Jessica Jones guest starring before her own series comes back. Big thumbs up for Hellcat. It's a good book. It's fun. I mean, I'm a softie for Hellcat. I'm a softie for She-Hulk. So you got She-Hulk and Hellcat in the book. I love it, Mm-hmm. And of course, it's classic Marvel, going all the way back to the pre-Marvel days of Timely, with Hetty and Patsy at each other's throat. Big hope for next season, Jessica Jones. We get Hetty. And that's where I'm at. That's my last book on my own.
All right, I got one last book on my own, and it was a toss-up between this and Ultimates, but since you're probably going with Ultimates, I'm going to go with my pick of the week, Daredevil number 6, part 1 of Electric Connection.
Electric Connection.
It starts off at in Hell's Kitchen at 2 a.m. Daredevil's on a rooftop. He's meeting Elektra, but she starts attacking him, and he's like, what's going on? And then they flash to earlier in the evening, 9 p.m., when he's in court, because he's been assigned to night court. And then he, as he's trying to get bail set for a defendant, he realizes Elektra's in the room, and he's like, what's she doing here? She's
Wait, Daredevil's been knocked down to night court? He's basically Dan Fielding now?
He made some kind of mistake, and his boss put him,
I sure hope they do some night court jokes in here. Is the defense attorney a pretty blonde in a blue pantsuit?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
But so
at least a big bald guy.
No, I don't see Bull anywhere.
Oh man, they're missing their shot on this. That's all I'm saying.
Give it time. But so Matt senses Elektra's in the courtroom, and he's like, what's she doing here? She's like 1,000 times worse than this guy I'm trying to get put away. And he's like, he has to play it cool, because he's like, since he wiped however he wiped everyone's memory except for Foggy, he's like, now she thinks Matt Murdock and Daredevil are two different people. And she said, he's walking away, and she says, Matt. Then they flash back to the present. She's like beating the crap out of him, and she pulls out a sign, is about to stab him, until Blind Spot comes in, grabs her arm, and she's just like, oh, the Chowdy's training, and she goes, you should be more careful. He gets his friends killed, and she it was like he breaks his arm or something, Blind Spot's arm.
Yeah, well, she does know about his friends getting killed, since she was one of them.
But so he knocks, so Daredevil knocks Elektra off, and he tells Blind Spot, he says, get to Linda, she can handle the arm, and he's like, go. And Elektra's like, the night nurse, I haven't thought about her in a long time. And Daredevil's like, she saved your life once. And Elektra's like, I suspect right now you wish she had failed. And he's like, enough, if you want to fight, let's fight. But then they flash back to earlier in the evening, 10 p.m. They're like in a restaurant or a bar, and he's telling her about why he's in night court now, and he's like, I wonder how she remembers it. He's like, she was with Matt Murdock and she was with Daredevil at the same time. I did one small thing, put my secret identity back in the box, and suddenly she's a cheater. Her and the others, Natasha, Mila. He's like, one small thing. He's like, sure, Matt. Just tell us already. So they're talking about this, and
he made a deal with Mephisto. We know.
Don't, please, no.
Yeah. One more day. No, he made his deal with Satanish. It's good. Or maybe he made a deal with Molecule Man, since, as we'll see, he's the boss of everything now.
But he's asking her why. But he's asking her why she's there, and he's basically like, okay, now she's doing it where she like seduces guys, and she's like grabbing his hand and stuff, and she's like, you still know him, right? She's like, Daredevil, I need to meet with him. And he's like, yeah. And then back in the present, they're still fighting, and he's like, he broke Blind Spot's arm, and
so this thing. So she remembers dating Daredevil and dating Matt Murdock at the same time.
That's what he's assuming. I mean, she never comes out and say it, but that's what he's assuming. I'm guessing everyone still has their memories, just not that he's Daredevil.
Yeah, but that's kind of a hard thing to forget.
I know. Daredevil. I guess Daredevil left his mask on for everything, Charlie. I don't know.
Oh, Marvel. Okay, moving right along.
But so they're
we'll
fighting.
wait till we get the answer.
Yeah, they're fighting, and she has him like down on the roof, and she's like, "You know what's been done to me in my life, what I've endured. How could you? How could you?" And he's like, "Wait, does she know?" He's like, "Does she know what I did to her? That I altered her memories?" He's like, "But how could she have found out? How?" And she kicks him off, or he kicks her off, and he's like, "I don't know what you mean." He's like, "Just tell me for God's sake." And she's like, "You were a liar. It was all I had, the one little bit of light in all this hell. And you will tell me, Daredevil, if I have to cut away every lie your body holds." Last page, full spread, her standing in the rain, she says, "What have you done with my daughter?"
What?
Yep.
Wait, is that Wild Thing?
I don't... Who knows?
You know what Wild Thing is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her daughter with Wolverine from the MC2. Yeah, she was cool. She had like psychic size or psychic claws. It was awesome.
But yeah, thumbs up. It's my pick of the week.
Yes. Okay. Well, that sounds good, man. Okay, now to my pick of the week, which we both read.
Yes.
Ultimates number 6, hosted by Galactus, just like Squirrel Girl this week. We tell the tale of Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, and then we get to that they say that the story of Sisyphus is in a universal piece of the collective unconscious. Every being, every culture throughout the entire omniverse has the tale of Sisyphus, the man pushing the rock. For those who don't recall, Sisyphus is a man who has been sentenced through all eternity to push a rock up a hill. And depending on the variation in the story, either the hill is never ending, or every time he gets the hill to the top, the rock rolls back down, and he has to go back down and start pushing the rock up against the hill. Either way, it is meant to imply an impossible task that goes on forever. A Sisyphean task. Moving right along. So, not A-Force. The Ultimates have been returned to our universe by Galactus. Meanwhile, they're wondering, is Galactus saving them? What's going on here? And Carol Danvers says, we have a guest who could use a friendly welcome. To which Brant says, friendly welcome, Keys. Did you sleep through orientation? Movement, we need a Omega class containment vessel now. This, of course, is for the Anti-Man. Then we do Galactus' story. Basically, Galactus remembers bonding with the remnant of the old universe as his old universe died to become who he would be, and now he is the Lifebringer. But Lord Chaos and Master Order do not like this. They go to challenge him. Interesting, they didn't send the In-Betweener, their middle force. But anyway, they basically say you must go back to being the Devourer. It is not time for you to be the Lifebringer yet. And he says, yeah, to heck with that noise. I am better than that. I'm stronger than you. And then he basically beats them up, basically saying, on this level, all combat is metaphorical. I'm punching you, but we both know that is me destroying your ideas. And then, what makes it all worthwhile, he says, Galactus will not regress, not without a fight. And then you hear, don't kid yourself, Lifebringer. There's a real fight coming. The voice is thin and nasal, an Earther's voice. I know it well, and I know to be afraid. Well, you coming in, and there's a door in the universe. Comes into the universe, and we see Owen Reese.
The Molecule Man, yes.
Yeah, he says, hey! And you see Galactus' voiceover says, just the voice of a being who could end me with a thought. Tread carefully, Galactus. Molecule Man, you created this quasi-reality? And this is what I love about this, okay? He says, it's a place to put my stuff. I like stuff. I like making it and having it.
Mhm.
Do you know what that is almost a direct quote from?
Huh.
The Beyonder.
Ah.
In Secret Wars #2, when he goes back to his place, and actually he makes the point that this place isn't even a place without me here, and then he starts filling it with stuff, including this is one of these moments, because we're going to get into this about the universe being caged, where he says, he gives him a soda and says, "That's good. Sit down. Have a soda from the 80s." Just two guys sitting there. It could have been an Iron City beer, man. That's all I'm saying, and basically, and Owen Reese says, "We should talk, you and me. We should talk about eternity. Tread carefully. He can end you with a thought. And he may be insane." "What about him?" says Galactus. "You don't trust me. That's good. You can't trust anyone. So play it close. Be a little cagey." I'll explain. "There's a kitten in this box, also a radioactive atom linked to a death ray. If the atom's decayed, the kitten's dead. 50-50 chance. So, did the kittens die?" This is, of course, the classic Schrodinger paradox. Of course, Schrodinger used that to essentially say that quantum superposition was not possible, because obviously the kitten would know if it was dead. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean it's not real. Most people don't know that about the Schrodinger's cat thought experiment, that it's actually meant to be a mockery of quantum superposition. The human thought experiment, a primitive understanding of quantum superposition, originally meant to. He says, "But I was lying. See, there's an omniverse in the box, and that omniverse died. But a lot of the lives in it carried on to a new one. A new broom, same handle. So, did the omniverse die? Are we in the 8th cosmos or still the 7th? Have the rules changed? Has the balance shifted? Can it? Should it? Are you where you're meant to be, Galactus? And I am as I wish to be, Owen Reese. Maybe. But the cosmic aspects are in discord. All shook up, can't agree. Some, Eternity's children, for instance, think the omniverse never ended, not properly. Can't Eternity stop them? Is he directing them? If so, why not act himself? If he is tied up somewhere, is that bad? And then, are the ones who think everything did end, but it shouldn't have? They want it all back to normal, which means you back in the purple? And you, where do you stand, Owen Reese? Oh, gee, I don't know. Nobody's asked me, and I'm kind of retired from the cosmic biz. Anyway, I'm just enjoying my stuff. I mean, I set a wheel in motion, favorite for an old friend, in trouble and all. But if you want me to pick a side, well, take a look at this. Do you know the myth of Sisyphus? Legend of the man who climbs the mountain pushing his rock against a terrible cosmic gravity, a gravity strong enough to warp the currents of time? The myth of the impossible task, a constant across the cosmos. Right. And he can never make it. The rock always rolls back to the bottom, always and forever. Is that where it's meant to be, do you think? The bottom of the mountain? I mean, according to tradition and gravity and the will of the gods, that's where it's going. But does that really mean it's where it's meant to be? Thank you, Owen, but I must leave you now. I have a duty to perform. I must not rest. If you say so, Lifebringer, good luck. And don't stop pushing. I mean, it is just, this was just hands down my book. I mean, like I said, it's my cosmic nerdery just dancing right on it. It is everything I love.
Everything I read it, I knew it would be your pick of the week.
Oh, yeah. No, there's not even, I mean, it's like, well, first, like I said, it's got all the 80s callbacks, which is my formative comic book years, okay? Mm-hmm. Owen Reese, this might as well have been written by Jim Shooter, for as much as I love this book, okay? This is like me as a young man, with my grubby Cheeto-stained hands reading comic books, and And I love it. I love every single second of it. And it is, at the same time, it is an evolved book. It is that 80s book evolved to that higher level as an adult where I am, where it's a little more complex, Did the universe end? Did it not end? Is eternity chained? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? The gods say the rock is at the bottom of the hill, but is that where it's supposed to be? It is, the ultimates are with, I did a survey for Dark Horse Comics because they had a Survey Monkey, and if you complete it, you're entered into the drawing to win a trip to the San Diego Comic-Con, where Fox will not be this year, which is fine by me, quite frankly. Come join the rest of the Marvel Universe, Fox. Sony did. And they asked, what of all of the entire universe, of the entire media that you consume, what is your favorite? And I said, Marvel Comics, The Ultimates. That's where I'm at. That is the best thing in my mind in the media I consume right now is Marvel Comics, The Ultimate, number 6. To me, quite frankly, the best one so far. But they've all been fantastic, and I can't wait to see what 7 is. I'm hoping we get back to the Ultimates and Ant-Man and Blue Marvel and their dynamic, because that's where the gold is going to be. But loving the Ultimates. So, do you want to do Last Days of Magic next?
Yeah, because that's kind of the order it goes in. Last Days of Magic. Yeah.
Would you like to do Last Days of Magic, my friend?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So, Last Days of Magic. This is sort of the interstitial book. $6. Was it worth $6? It's hard to say. You're going to say no.
Yeah, no.
No. I'll tell you, probably not worth $6. I think $5 would have been better.
Yeah.
It's a $4.99 book. I think this really doesn't give us much, but it gives us characters. How good those characters are is debatable. Mm-hmm. Who wrote this book anyway? Well, there's actually got several writers. We got Jason Aaron. We've got Gary Dugan. We've got James Robinson. Yeah, so those are 3 writers. Aaron, Dugan, and Robinson. I'm going to guess. Here's the thing. The idea of sympathetic magic is an interesting concept because it deals at its core with the idea of shared ideas of a concept. Things in order for magic to work, you must reduce it at its core to essentially the stereotypes. The ideas of, what does this thing represent? What does earth represent? What does wind represent? What does water represent? If we say this is the element of water, what does that mean to say it is like water? What does it mean to say it is like earth? What does it mean to say it is like fire? And when you apply this to human beings and cultures throughout the world, sometimes that can get a little racist. Not excessively, but in both, and basically the conceit of this story is our intrepid librarian, Zelma Stanton, in Doctor Strange's library, sorting out his books, deciding what goes where and what she's going to decide. And the first book she comes on is the book of El Medico Mystico, Dr. Mystical, as she translates. Who in the ever-loving heck is Dr. Mystical? And we see in the deep jungle, the empirical comes, and then he makes it rain, and then it starts raining sharks. And then he starts beating up the empirical and summons a gigantic stone Incan deity to do battle with him. Meanwhile, she says, this book smells of gumbo because it's Dr. Voodoo's book. Which again, it's like, little racist. Why does it have to smell of gumbo? I don't know. But, I guess what we're going to say in a few minutes is that they're equal opportunity racists. We go to Dr. Voodoo's secret armory, where all of his numerous talismans are hidden. He makes the point as he battles the Empirical that, they have destroyed all of Doctor Strange's extra-dimensional magic, but his magic comes from this plane, the plane of the Earth. He's defeating it, and then they hit him with some fancy laser beams, and then they go to destroy him. But of course, he used
Pym particles
to hide from them, and Pym particles to grow on back. Pretty cool. By the way, we do see that there's a jazz man there who is a ghost in the graveyard who talks to Dr. Voodoo, although as it sort of keeps watch around his place, although as Dr. Voodoo points out, because he calls him Mr. Voodoo, he says, actually, it's Doctor, and he's not a Ghostbuster. Interesting point in this. Very powerful point in this. Empirical is saying we have eliminated magic. And in fact, we see, even though they've said that, the ghost is still there after the Empirical is left. Cut to the Tower of Zu and the Doom Veda, the mandalas of Mahatma Doom. And we see Mahatma Doom, who is not the only survivor. Well, maybe he's the only. Okay. So interesting side note, there was a limited series called The Books of Doom, which was a retelling of Doom's origin as told by a malfunctioning Doombot, and one of the surviving monks from Doom's lair, who was locked away in Latveria. Although I suppose since that Doom has been deposed from Latveria, maybe that monk has been freed, and maybe that is Mahatma Doom. Because they say this is the last surviving monk of that monastery who taught Doom both magic and science. And here he is with Doom's mask and cape, and he is in transcendental meditation, preaching love. Zoom, who is an alchemist. And hey, how come we don't got, if we're dealing with alchemists, how come Diablo's not in this book? He is the world's greatest alchemist, as we all know.
Since they're just dealing with mystical stuff, I mean,
yeah, but alchemy is mystical. I mean, it's
isn't it based on science somewhat?
Well, yeah, but Dr. Zoom is an alchemist, they say. So she is also, in that science to magic universe. And as I've already said, we all know that the final scene is going to be Strange basically saying there is no science, there is no magic, there is only truth. And if magic exists, then that is as much truth as science. We know that that's going to be the outcome of this book, because there's no other way that they can set this up the way they have without the fact that Dr. Strange basically explaining that on the quantum level, magic is just science you don't understand. And once you understand the magic, it becomes science, because we know that in the cellar, which does get referenced in the next book, is Grey's Anatomy or some nonsense. Because my take in it is that basically when Doctor Strange would go into the cellar, he was repairing his body with his knowledge of the body. That he would go in there and he would fix his body, because he would say this goes here and that goes there, and that is how he fixed his body as a mystical being. And that is what would refresh him. Rather than spending his life on that, he would say, this is what my life is, and he would rebuild his body. Or something along those lines. Anyway, moving right along, Professor Zoom and the Mahatma have converted some of the Empiricum, because he says you are clones, but you have souls, and touches their souls, which is pretty awesome. Just the idea of nonviolence and meditation being the way to defeat the Empiricum. Then, within that conceit, Stanton then tells the story of Alice Gulliver, Yay! A pink-haired, half-Asian girl cop in Hong Kong whose mother married a British guy who was a cop. They lived in an apartment building. They had a daughter who was all rebellious a bit. Looked a lot like Chloe Panette, I think. You know, mom dies, but passes the magic on to her daughter, which makes her hair turn pink because it's the coral color hair, I guess, is the idea. She has magical guns, but she's not really a high-end magic user. So when the Impericum comes, she goes and blasts them with her guns. She is the Woo, so we'll see more of her later. And then the most racist of all it's the Grand Tales of Count Kaozu, which smells of vodka. Because, if you're Russian, you must be drunk, drinking lots of vodka. Because what else are you if a Russian except a bear-eating vodka drinker? Plotline is Count Kaozu, Kaoz, or actually Kao Theta Z. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that letter, although it's probably intended to be pronounced as an O, even though it is not an O. It's like the backwards R's in Russian actually do not make an R sound. They make like an SH sound. Mm-hmm. But we are Westerners who don't know that. We don't understand the Cyrillic alphabet. We just throw it in where it looks cool. Again, with all the trouble with Doctor Strange and cultural co-option and not the book you needed this week, Marvel. Basically, Count Kaoz ate a magic bear, and now he spits fire blood, and he is the manliest of all mages, and he's taken out the Impericum. And then we get to the scene from the last issue where the Cloak of Levitation gets ripped as Science Superman magic guy defeats Doctor Strange. Yeah. $6 I paid for that book. You know what? I liked the book because I liked the introduction of new characters. I always like introduction of new characters. I like the idea of the new characters. I'm fascinated by Mahatma Doom. I hope they give Mahatma Doom to someone who deals with him well. I hope all these characters get good writers for them. I'm not sure the people who wrote these characters in this one are the best writers. They might be. They probably just had to condense their stories. I like the Woo. The idea of the magic cop is kind of cool. I'm interested in seeing more about all these characters. When we saw in the tail bit from the last one, we saw a bunch of interesting new magic characters. I'm hoping many of those guys come back. It was interesting. $6. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a half thumb. It's not a thumb up, but it's not really a thumb down. I mean, I'll say it's almost a thumb 3/4 down because it was a lot of money to spend for not a lot of story.
Yeah, I know.
But it was a neat introduction to some interesting characters. Next time, Marvel, don't be greedy. Just charge us $5 for that book. Really, that's a $5 book, not a $6 book.
Yeah, you're thinking. So you're saying thumb to the side. Okay, I was saying 3/4 up. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, well, I'm actually really saying kind of 3/4 down because of the price.
Okay.
I'd say if that was a $5 book, it would be thumb to the side. Maybe almost 3/4 up, but at $6, it's like, really, Marvel? It's thumb to the side, maybe 3/4 down. It's not bad, but it's overpriced. It is way overpriced, Marvel. And you're lucky I was being sympathetic. You're lucky my tax return came in this week, is what I'm going to tell you, Marvel. This was not a tax return week, Marvel. That and maybe issue 7 of Doctor Strange might not have gotten on my list. Because quite frankly, I I would say there was a little weakness in the next book too. Magic Superman, as we're going to call him from now on. What if we did this? What if we did the Legend of Superman? I'm going to tell you right now, what's the one redeeming factor of this book, Phil? You know what the redeeming factor of issue 7 was for me.
Monaco.
Yes! The greatest of them all. That is what redeems this little book for $4.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do the background on this, or do you want to take that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So we open up on the last days of Krypton. Kal-El and his wife are dealing with the High Council of Krypton, who are unfavorable to their theories. Basically, no, that is literally what it is. The Empirical's father and his mother, they believe in science, not magic. Okay.
Yeah.
And the bad guys, Science Wizard Police, are here to destroy them. They send their one little son with all the little clone iBots into the cosmos so that he is not sacrificed to Shuma Gorath. Meanwhile, back in New York City in the future, little science Superman has grown up to be a big meanie. He's all like in black and white instead of in color, because sure, why not? Doctor Strange is tied to a tree, as is a bunch of other magic users. And he's saying, my parents would have sacrificed me to Shuma Gorath. And Doctor Strange is like, look, I know who Shuma Gorath is. I fight him all the time. We're not enemies. He's like, no, all you are evil because you're magic users. He goes to magic, says her first. He says, I've seen your kind before. You will not bewitch me with your beauty temptress. I'd say I was flattered if I wasn't more interested in ramming my arm down your throat and pulling your guts through your face holes. Meanwhile, up comes the hero of the piece, the greatest sorcerer who ever lived, the hero for all magic in all time, the man who defeated that poser Doctor Strange, or not Doctor Strange, that poser Doctor Doom in the Fantastic Four, the Future Foundation. Monaco, the Prince of Magic, basically says, you think you've defeated magic. You don't understand magic. Magic hides. Magic hides in a little stick wielded by an old drunk. And basically kicks some butt with some magic hardcore, sends all the other magicians out as he goes to face his doom. Meanwhile, Zelda Stanton, as the bad guys are running in, we see her running past the door that says, "The cellar, never enter." Because, of course, Monaco is being beaten up by Super, who even has the U for Uberman. You remember Ultraman from the Evil Universe? Yeah, he's even got the U drawn on his face. Oh, Marvel. You don't have to steal from DC, Marvel. You're better than that. We see her put to the cellar that says never enter. Here go. Because she found a copy of Grey's Anatomy, and it's a very disturbing book. It's full of dissected body parts, We see that Monaco is still alive even as they're beating him. Oh, and of course, Ultraman Science Superman has heat vision, of course. So he's shooting heat vision at him. And Doctor Strange is in some alternate place where Monaco sent them, though they can't find a way out. And we do see Monaco going, "Arg!" in the last panel as the magic heroes try to escape. They're going to find all the hidden places that magic is hiding, every lost amulet and hidden statue. That's what we have to find. So, I liked the book overall, even if they did steal heavily from the Superman mythos. Though one imagines if you're writing a comic book, you always want to steal a little from Superman. I mean, it is the proto superheroic story, you know, and it is really nice, but yeah, and of course Monaco saves the day, and I love Monaco. Monaco better freaking survive this. They got a letter, no letters page yet. I'm gonna try and write them that letter this weekend with everybody else. I have to write a letter too, but I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. You know, the Last Days of Magic was thumb to the side. This is, I'm gonna say, it's a thumbs up. Monaco saves the day. Magic, Magic continues. You know, it's just hiding. It's a good book. I mean, it's a solid book. Even if Kal-El is the bad guy. What did you think, Phil? Did you like the book?
Oh yeah, it's a thumbs up for me. Yeah, like you said, Monaco saved the day.
Yeah,
I think we actually got some Doctor Strange in this book. You know.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I like Medico Mystical. You know, I'd like to see something with him. That's fine. Like I said, you know, I guess probably I would have been happier if they're going to have a Mexican sorcerer, that maybe they'd given him to a Mexican guy to write. That might have been a little more interesting, or someone who had a real deep understanding of, you know, Mexican mysticism and, you know, its origins in Aztec folk lore, perhaps. I'm not sure that this person doesn't have all that. I'm just saying, if you're going to start doing the ethnic wizards, you probably need to have a little knowledge of that ethnicity. And what we got was very surface, and maybe it goes deeper, but what we got was surface. And it's a little uneasy at this point in the Doctor Strange story to go with that surface idea of magic. It's like, if you're going to go, you should go deep. You know, sort of like what Scarlet Witch says to Wiccan in the next episode of New Avengers, we're saying, look, it's okay if you want to be Wiccan. If you want to call yourself Wiccan, but you understand magic names have power, and you might have chosen it, but it also might have chosen you. You're going to go there. You should go deep and understand what it is you're describing yourself as. That's going to be a good issue next week. You know, Teddy and Wiccan. Can't remember Wiccan's real name off the top of my head, but they go hang out with Scarlet Witch to get advice, which is nice.
All right. Let's get out of here, kid, because that is your 2-hour super connectivity, our all-new Marvel Roundup. Jeez.
God, that was all. Monaco, where are you? Save us.
It's a double-sized episode. If we learned anything from Marvel, you should be paying us $6 a piece.
Yeah. So let's give social media.
Yeah, let's get out of here. All right. Share your thoughts on any books, especially ones we didn't cover. I can't believe there's any books we didn't cover. Email us. MarvelRoundup@gmail.com. On Facebook, we're Only Marvel Roundup. Twitter is @Marvel_Roundup. Our shared Instagram is World's Finest Roundup. And Charlie?
Oh, and of course you can always tweet along with me on the Twitters @CharlieSser. CharlieSSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And of course, write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. 2 N's in connectivity.
All right, and you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. Twitter's @nightwingpdp. Instagram, Periscope. I started a new Tumblr, all nightwingpdp. All right, let's get out of here. You got a lot for a free podcast.
Tune in for super connectivity.
Yes. But until next week, I think it's a little smaller week, but come back. Yeah, I can't remember what I got. I'm feeling kind of woozy. We're going to leave you because I'm very woozy. I feel like I'm in the Molecule Man's room. But until next week, good night.
Good night.